My dad tried to force me to give my house to my golden sister for her kids. So, I made one move that left them facing exactly what they deserved. I, a 32-year-old male, never thought I'd be sharing this absolute cluster of a situation on Reddit, but here I am, still shaking with anger as I type this. First, let me paint you a picture of my life. For the past 10 years, I've been working as a veterinary technician at one of the busiest animal hospitals in our city. It's not exactly rolling in cash. I make about $65,000 a year, but I absolutely love what I do. There's something special about helping sick animals get better, even if it means getting scratched, bitten, and covered in various bodily fluids on a daily basis. Plus, the look on an owner's face when you help save their pet is worth more than any six-figure tech salary, if you ask me. But man, saving for a house on a vet tech salary, that's been a whole different kind of challenge since I was 22. I've been living like a college student trying to make this dream happen. I shared a cramped apartment with 3 other guys, one of whom was definitely running some kind of illegal cheese import business from his bedroom. Don't ask, the smell still haunts me. I drove this ancient Honda Civic that made sounds I'm pretty sure cars shouldn't make and lived off the cheapest meal prep you can imagine. If there was a sale on ramen or frozen burritos, I was there. Meanwhile, my sister Sarah, 35-year-old female low boy. Where do I even start with Sarah? Picture every entitled Instagram influencer wannabe you've ever seen. Multiply it by 10. Add 3 kids from 3 different baby daddies, and you're getting close. She's got this whole lifestyle brand thing going on, joining every pyramid scheme that comes her way, and convincing our parents to invest. Her kids are 8, 5, and 2 cute kids. Don't get me wrong, but she uses them like accessories. For her Instagram, she's always posting these staged photos of them in matching designer outfits, with captions like "Blessed Mama, raising my tribe," while simultaneously pawning them off on our parents so she can go to business meetings, also known as cocktails with other MLM huns. The kicker: she hasn't held down a real job since she quit her hostess gig at Applebee's in high school because, and I quote, "the uniform didn't match her aesthetic," but somehow she always has the latest iPhone, a closet full of designer bags, and goes on these lavish business retreats to Cancun. How 2 words. Our parents, especially Dad. Man, the way he treats Sarah versus me is like we're not even from the same family. Growing up, if I needed new shoes for school, it was money doesn't grow on trees, son. But if Sarah needed a new MacBook because her old one was last year's model, Dad's credit card materialized faster than you can say Daddy's princess. I tried not to let it bother me too much over the years. I was building my own life, doing my own thing. Sure, living with roommates in my late 20s, while Sarah lived rent-free in our parents' guest house wasn't ideal. But I had a plan. Every extra dollar I made doing overnight emergency shifts or picking up extra hours went straight into my house fund, while Sarah was blowing money on cryptocurrency schemes recommended by her latest boyfriend. I was learning everything I could about mortgages, property taxes, and home maintenance. Finally, after nearly 10 years of saving, living like a monk, and working more overtime than I can count, I did it. I found this cozy 3-bedroom ranch-style house in a decent neighborhood. It's nothing fancy and definitely needs some TLC. It's got this weird carpet in the bathroom that's probably older than I am. And the previous owner had some questionable ideas about accent walls, who paints a kitchen neon orange. But it was within my budget, structurally sound, and, most importantly, it was mine. The day I got the keys, I literally sat on the floor of my empty living room and cried. Pathetic, maybe. But after watching Sarah get handed everything her whole life, while I worked my ass off for every single thing I had, this felt like vindication of proof that doing things the right way, the hard way, could actually pay off. And speaking of Sarah getting handed things, here's where the story really starts to get interesting. 5 years ago, our parents gave her a house. Not just any house, but a gorgeous 4-bedroom in the fancy part of town, the kind of place where people have little signs advertising their home security system and everyone drives a Tesla. It was way nicer than my place. Probably worth twice as much. Want to guess how long it took her to completely screw that up? Less than a year. She convinced Dad it would be a smart investment move to sell the house and use the money to fund her latest business venture. Combination of a juice cleanse program and a music production company for her boyfriend at the time. Spoiler alert, he took the money and disappeared. Now she's back living in our parents' guest house, rent-free of course, while they pay for everything from her kids' private school tuition to her monthly self-care spa treatments. But hey, I was doing my thing, living my life, slowly fixing up my house room by room. I got rid of that bathroom carpet, seriously, who puts carpet in a bathroom? Painted over the neon orange kitchen, and even started a proper home office. Life was good. Then, last month, everything went straight to hell. It was a Tuesday, and I had just finished probably the roughest shift of my career. I had to assist with 3 back-to-back emergency surgeries, including a poor German shepherd who'd swallowed an entire kid's toy collection, Legos, Hot Wheels, the works. By the time I got home, I was running on nothing but coffee and pure willpower. I collapsed onto my couch, the old but super comfortable thing I found at a garage sale, when my phone rang. It was Dad. Now, Dad calling isn't usually a big deal, but something felt off. Maybe it was the way he was trying too hard to sound casual. Or maybe it was just my exhausted brain being paranoid. My gut was screaming that something was up. Hey, son, you home? Mind if I stop by for a bit? Need to discuss something with you. I should have trusted my gut. 20 minutes later, I heard not one but 2 cars pull up in my driveway. From my front window, I watched Dad step out of his Mercedes. The one he bought for the family, but only Sarah gets to drive. Then, out of a brand new Range Rover, probably also financed by Dad, came Sarah. Tottering in ridiculous red-bottom Louboutins that definitely cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. I should have slammed the door right then. They walked in like they owned the place. Sarah immediately started critiquing everything. Gah, this furniture is so basic. Yeah, because some of us buy things with our own money, sis. These walls need to be white for my aesthetic. They're beige, but whatever. This would make such a cute room for Jaden's TikTok studio. Her 8-year-old does not need a TikTok studio. We sat down in my living room. Sarah sprawled across my armchair like it's a photo shoot set, still intermittently recording stuff. On her phone, Dad cleared his throat, did this weird laugh, and then dropped the bomb that started this whole nightmare. So, son, your sister's been going through some challenges lately. Sarah immediately jumped in with the dramatics. Oh my God, Dad, don't make it sound so tragic. I'm just like pivoting my business model. She turned to me with a fake sympathetic look. My meditation crystal business didn't exactly align with my authentic self. I'm sitting there, thinking about the $20,000 Dad invested in her crystal business 3 months ago. But I kept my mouth shut. Dad continued. Well, anyway, we've been thinking this house is really too big for just one person. Your sister has 3 growing children, and they need space to thrive. We think, he paused for effect, should give Sarah your house. I legitimately thought I was hallucinating from exhaustion, like maybe I fell asleep at work, and this was some weird dream brought on by too much coffee and the lingering smell of dog surgery. Excuse me, what? Sarah rolled her eyes so hard I'm surprised they didn't get stuck. God, don't be so dramatic. It's not like you're using all this space. She gestured vaguely with her phone, still recording. I need a proper space for my content creation. The guest house lighting is totally killing my engagement metrics. I looked at Dad, waiting for the punchline. But he wore that same expression he always has when Sarah wants something, and he just wants peace. Look, you can't. Be serious, I said. Dad leaned forward in his reasonable businessman voice. We've thought this through. You're young, single, focused on your career. You could easily get an apartment closer to the animal hospital. Sarah needs stability for the kids. Stability? I almost choked, like the stability of the house you gave her, which she sold for her ex's music career. Sarah's head snapped up from her phone. That was different. Jackson's mixtape was going to be huge. How was I supposed to know he'd run off to Miami with that SoundCloud rapper? Dad raised his hands in a placating gesture that made my blood boil. The past is the past. This is about family, about helping your sister get back on her feet. Back on her feet, I laughed, but there was no humor in it. She's never been on her feet. You've carried her through every bad decision she's ever made." Sarah gasped, as if I'd personally offended her entire Instagram following. "I am a boss babe running multiple businesses. Pyramid schemes aren't businesses, Sarah," I shot back. That's when Dad pulled out his trump card, one he probably thought would end all discussion. "Son, if you don't help your sister out here, well, you might want to reconsider your position in the will." The room went dead silent. Even Sarah stopped recording. And you know what? In that moment, something in me snapped. All those years of watching Sarah get everything while I worked my ass off. All the times I kept my mouth shut to keep the peace. It all came boiling up. I stood up, walked to my home office, ignoring Sarah's "oh my God, so rude," and came back with a folder. A folder I'd been keeping since the day Sarah sold her house, because some part of me knew this day would come. "You want to talk about the will, Dad? Let's talk about it." Quick backstory on this folder. The day Sarah sold her house, something clicked in my brain. Maybe it was all those years working with sick animals, seeing how one small thing can snowball into a huge problem if you don't document everything. So, I started keeping records, every receipt, every text message, every social media post where Sarah bragged about her investments. Call it paranoid. But working 12-hour shifts at the animal hospital teaches you to trust your instincts. I dropped the folder on my coffee table, which Sarah had just called tragically suburban 10 minutes ago. The thought it made was honestly kind of satisfying. "Let's do some math, Dad," I said, pulling out the first document. "The house you gave Sarah, the one in Oakwood Heights, let's talk about what it was worth." Sarah scoffed, finally putting her phone down. "Oh my God, are you still bitter about that? That was like forever ago. I'm trying to manifest abundance here, and your negative energy is totally blocking my chakras." I ignored her and focused on Dad. "The property records show it was worth $875,000 when you gave it to her. Know what she sold it for?" Dad was starting to look uncomfortable. Sarah was examining her nails like they were suddenly the most interesting things in the world. $890,000. And where did that money go? I pulled out more papers. $50,000 to invest in Jackson's music career. He disappeared with that money. 2 weeks later though, at least he got a face tattoo out of it. Then there was $200,000 for her crystal healing empire, which lasted exactly 3 months before she declared crystals were so 2022. Oh, and let's not forget the $300,000 she invested in that pyramid scheme selling alkalinized wellness. Water war, whatever it was, Sarah interrupted, only failed because people weren't ready for that level of hydration consciousness. She added, I continued laying out paper after paper. The rest went to designer bags, that Range Rover she couldn't afford the payments on, and God knows what else. But here's the interesting part, Dad. I had a friend in real estate look up the current value of your estate. Dad's face went from uncomfortable to ghost white. Sarah was still pretending to be absorbed in her manicure, but I could see her shoulders tensing up. Your house, your investments, everything you have left, worth less than what Sarah's house sold for. She's already gotten her inheritance. She's gotten more than her share. She just blew through it in record time. The silence in the room was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. Sarah's face was doing this weird thing, trying to maintain her influencer smile while her eye was twitching. Dad looked like he was about to have a stroke. So go ahead, I said, leaning back in my chair. Cut me out of the will. There's nothing left to cut me out of anyway. That's when Sarah exploded. She shrieked, jumping up from her chair. This is so unfair. You can't just throw numbers around like this. Money isn't everything. What about my children? What about their future? I shot back. The same children you're exploiting for Instagram sponsors. The ones you're turning into TikTok stars before they can even read properly. At least I have children, she screamed. Shara screamed back. What do you have? A bunch of sick animals and this basic suburban nightmare. Dad finally found his voice. Now son, these numbers, they're not telling the whole story. Your sister's businesses were investments in her future. I cut him off. No, Dad, they were you enabling her to avoid responsibility again. And now that you've run out of things to give her, you're trying to take my house, the one thing I worked my ass off for, without any help from you. Sarah was full on crying now, but with those weird influencer tears where she angles her face into the light perfectly. You don't understand. I need a proper space for my content. The guest house lighting is killing my engagement metrics. My followers expect a certain aesthetic. Your followers, I laughed. You mean the ones you bought? 'Cause I've got receipts for that too. Her jaw dropped. You wouldn't? I pulled out another stack of papers. 10,000 fake followers purchased last month alone. Wonder what your sponsors would think of that. Dad stood up, trying to regain control. That's enough. This kind of behavior is exactly why we're worried about you. This isn't how family treats each other. No, Dad, I said. This isn't how family treats each other. Family doesn't try to steal each other's homes. Family doesn't enable one kid while screwing over the other. And family definitely doesn't threaten to cut someone out of a will that's already empty. Sarah's mascara was running now waterproof, my ass, but she still tried to film bits on her phone. My followers are going to hear about this. Just wait until I post about this toxic family drama. Post away, I said, pulling out one final document, but you might want to read this first. Remember that contract you signed with Dad when he gave you the house? The one stating you'd use the money responsibly. That one technically makes you liable for fraud, since you lied about your business investments. The phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor. I stood up, gathering my papers. Now, get out of my house, both of you. And if you ever try to threaten me with inheritance again, these papers go straight to a lawyer. After I kicked them out that night, I honestly thought that would be the end of it. Who in their right mind would try anything after being exposed like that? But I guess I underestimated just how entitled Sarah really is, and how far Dad would go to enable her crazy behavior. The next few days were relatively quiet, except for Sarah's passive-aggressive Instagram posts about toxic family members and negative energy vampires. Pretty sure she meant me. Lol. She even posted a long-ass story about how the universe sometimes makes you struggle to prepare you for abundance. Or some BS like that. Meanwhile, posting from a spa day that Dad definitely paid for, wearing another new designer outfit. I was working my usual shifts at the animal hospital, trying to get back to normal. I had a sweet case with a rescue pit bull who needed surgery. She's doing great now, by the way, totally thriving with her new family. Everything seemed to be calming down. Then last Thursday happened. I was in the middle of a complicated dental procedure. Fun fact, cat teeth are way more complex than people think. When my phone started blowing up, vibrating non-stop in my pocket. Normally, I never check my phone during procedures, but something felt off. During my break, I finally looked at my messages. Holy freaking hell. The first message was from my next-door neighbor, Mike. Dude, there's a moving truck in your driveway. Then, from my other neighbor, Karen, a super nice Karen, not the stereotype. There are people moving furniture into your house. Is everything okay? Then a series of increasingly panicked messages from both of them, about how Sarah and Dad were literally moving stuff into my house. I immediately called Mike, my hand shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Mike, what the hell is happening? Bro, your sister and Dad showed up about an hour ago with a U-Haul and some moving guys. They had a locksmith with them. Said something about you giving them the house. I thought it seemed weird but didn't want to assume. I felt like I was going to throw up. I told my supervisor I had a family emergency, understatement of the century, and raced home. The whole drive, my mind was spinning. They couldn't be this crazy, right? This had to be some kind of mistake. Nope. I pulled up to my house, and there it was. A massive U-Haul in my driveway. Sarah directing very confused movers while she filmed everything for her Instagram. And Dad talking to a locksmith who was actively changing my locks. The best part, Sarah's 3 kids were running around my front yard screaming, "We get to pick our rooms," while she yelled at them about ruining her Instagram live. Her youngest, like 2 years old, was literally drawing on my garage door with markers, while she was too busy filming to notice. I parked my car, blocking the U-Haul, and stormed up to my front door. Sarah saw me and looked genuinely annoyed. Ugh, what are you doing here? You're totally ruining the surprise for my followers. I was going to do a whole home renovation series. I was shaking with rage at this point. What am I doing here? This is my house. Dad stepped in, trying to act calm and businesslike, while the locksmith committed a crime behind him. Now son, we figured since you were being unreasonable, we'd help you make the right decision. You can't just leave your sister and her children homeless. Homeless? She lives in your guest house for free. Sarah rolled her eyes, still filming. That's not the point. The guest house doesn't have a home theater room. Where am I supposed to film my motivational Monday videos? I pulled out my phone to call the cops and that's when Sarah showed her true colors. She grabbed my arm, still filming with her other hand, and said in a weirdly calm voice, "Go ahead, call them. But remember, I have 3 kids. Who do you think they'll side with? The single guy who works with animals? Or the poor single mom just trying to provide for her babies?" Dad nodded along. "This makes perfect sense, son. Think about how this will look. Just let your sister have the house. We can find you a nice apartment." I looked at the locksmith, who was visibly uncomfortable. "Did you verify who owned this house before changing the locks?" He shifted nervously. They said it was a family property." Showed me some papers. I pulled out my deed, mortgage documents, and property tax records on my phone and showed them to him. His face went white. Sarah was still filming, but screaming about family property and agreements. Dad fumbled in his briefcase and pulled out some obviously fake documents they probably printed at Kinko's. I said, "I've got something better." I opened my files and showed the locksmith that all the property documents were in my name. Legally filed. His face was priceless. Sarah shrieked, "This is literally abuse. I'm literally shaking right now. My followers will not believe this toxic masculinity." Then she asked if she could position herself for better lighting and her mugshot. I pressed dial on my phone and said the words that made Sarah's fake Instagram smile disappear completely. "Yes, police. I'd like to report a breaking and entering in progress." What happened next was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, Instagram worthy, of course. Sarah immediately switched into full mommy influencer crisis mode. "Oh my God, are you filming this?" she shrieked, positioning herself for better lighting while having a meltdown. "This is literally abuse. My followers will not believe this." Meanwhile, Dad was going through the 5 stages of grief in record time. "Son, think about what you're doing. This is family. We can work this out." The locksmith, bless his heart, started packing up his tools as fast as he could. Then one of Sarah's kids, her oldest, Jaden, pulled out an iPad, probably worth more than my first car, and started a live commentary. "Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're watching my mom get a new house, but my brother is being super sus right now. I swear I couldn't make this up." The cops arrived in what felt like forever but was probably only 10 minutes. 2 patrol cars pulled up, and Sarah immediately switched into her poor, helpless single mother act. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. My brother is trying to keep me and my babies homeless. Look at their little faces." The officers calmly asked for IDs and proof of residence. I showed them my deed, mortgage statements, tax records, and my driver's license. Sarah tried to interrupt with her family property story, but the officer cut her off. "Ma'am, do you have any legal documentation showing your right to be here?" Dad stepped forward with his Kinko special documents. The officer took one look and actually sighed, like he was dealing with kindergartners who did their homework in crayon. "Sir, these are not legal property documents. This appears to be a PowerPoint presentation printed on fancy paper." Y'all, the shade in that officer's voice. I almost felt bad for Dad. Almost. The officers exchanged a look that said, "We're done with this. Ma'am, please stop recording and step outside the property. This is a potential crime scene." Crime scene. Sarah's shriek hit a pitch that probably had dogs howling 3 blocks away. "Yes ma'am," the officer repeated. Then he turned to me. "Sir, do you want to press charges?" Sarah's face dropped faster than her last multi-level marketing scheme. Dad sputtered about family and reputation and his golf club membership. The officers took statements from everyone, including the terrified locksmith, who admitted Dad and Sarah had presented fake documents, and the moving guys who showed the work order Sarah had filled out, while one officer oversaw the removal of the furniture they'd moved in. The other took Sarah and Dad aside. That's when Sarah's middle kid, Mason, dropped the bomb. He looked at the officer and said, "Are we going to jail like when Mommy took stuff from the mall?" The officer's eyebrow shot up so fast it probably broke the sound barrier. "Ma'am, is there something else we should know about?" Sarah froze, her $1 million influencer facade crumbling. Dad's face went pale. The officers discovered an outstanding warrant for Sarah from a mall shoplifting incident. They arrested her on the spot. Dad's fake documents landed him in hot water, too, once the officer noticed the forgeries and threatened fraud charges. As for the locksmith, I chose not to press charges on one condition. He gave a full statement about how Dad and Sarah had deceived him with those fake papers. His testimony opened a bigger fraud investigation. Dad had been embezzling from his own company to fund Sarah's lifestyle, cooking the books and writing off designer bags, tuition, and that Range Rover as business expenses for a fake consulting company under Sarah's name. Sarah faced multiple fraud charges, plus the original shoplifting warrant. Dad was fired and now faces criminal charges. The company is suing him for every penny. Mason's dad, who'd once ditched his responsibilities, stepped up, married a child psychologist, and got custody of the kids. They're thriving in therapy and public school. My house, still mine. I fixed the garage door goodbye, marker drawings, painted over Sarah's neon pink accent wall, and turned a spare room into a proper home office. The neighbors joke that my house is now the most secure in the neighborhood. Last week, I got a letter from Sarah, writing from my mom's house in Florida, where she fled to avoid media attention, begging me to help with legal fees. She says she's learned her lesson and wants to rebuild our family bond overing to promote my veterinary clinic on her Instagram, which lost 80% of its followers. I took a picture of her letter, wrote "no" in big red letters, and mailed it back. Sarah's already posted about being in talks to play herself in the adaptation. I'm pretty sure they're both lying, but at this point, I just sit back and laugh. My house is paid for, my job's rewarding, and I never have to worry about finding crystals in my couch cushions ever again. Thanks for following this crazy journey, Reddit. Remember, sometimes the best family isn't the one you're born into, but the one you choose.